Welcome to the third part of the discussion on functions in MS Excel. In this session, we are going to take up some commonly used statistical functions. These are the functions that we are going to take. Average. Average function is a function that helps us in calculating arithmetic mean of the data set. Count function. Count function helps in counting the cells which contain numerical values. So if you have a data set or if you enter the data which has both numerical values as well as some cells may have text or they may be blank, the number of cells which have numerical values will be counted and that number will be returned by the function. Countif function. This function counts the number of cells that satisfy a condition or a criteria. Max function. Max function returns the largest value in the data set. Min function. This function returns the smallest value in the data set. stdev.s function. This function helps in calculating the standard deviation of the sample. If you have, instead of sample, the entire population, then you should use stdev.p function, which has similar syntax and working as this particular function. Next function is mode.sngl. This function helps in calculating the mode or the most frequent value in the data set. Correl function. It returns or it calculates the Karl-Pearson's coefficient of correlation. Intercept function and slope function. Both these functions return the coefficients for regression line. The intercept gives us the intercept of the regression line and slope returns the slope for a regression line. Frequency function helps us in calculating the frequency distribution for the data set. Now let us see how this is done with the help of some examples. Now you can see my Excel sheet. I have already generated 50 numbers as my data set and we will be performing these functions on this particular data set. Let's start with calculation of arithmetic mean. The function that we use is average. I type equal to average and the syntax that it takes is number 1, number 2, number 3. So I can either enter my individual numbers for which I want to calculate average, or I can give the range of the data cells where my data set lies, which is what I do in my case. So press enter. Average for this particular data set is calculated. Next function is count function. I told you count function counts the number of cells which contain numerical values. So it takes value 1, value 2, or you can also give the entire cell range. What I am going to do is I am going to give the cell range from A1, which contains a text, up till E12, which includes some of the blank cells also. So this is my data set which you can see in the dotted highlighted area. So this data set consists of this text, it consists of 4 blank cells, it also consists of 50 numbers that I generated, and count should count only those cells which have numerical values. Press enter and I get 50, which is the numbers that I generated. I told you this is a data set with 50 numbers. Countif function. Countif function gives us the number of cells which satisfy a particular criteria. For example, I want to see how many numbers in my data set are more than 50. So I'll apply countif function and this function takes the syntax range, criteria. Now range refers to the range of cells which contain the data, which is this range, criteria. What is the condition that I want to evaluate? I want to see how many numbers are more than 50. I'll put that within a pair of quotations and press enter. 23 of the numbers are more than 50 in my given data set. Now max function, this returns the largest value in the data set, equal to max. Again it asks me all the numbers, so I can give my cell range. Largest number in my data set is 96. Then we come to min function, equal to min. This returns the smallest number in the data set. I take my data set as the argument and it returns 1 is the smallest number in my data set. You can see over here we have 1. 96, which is the largest number, is here. Then I calculate stdev.s. That means I want to calculate what is the standard deviation of my data set. So equal to stdev.s, assuming that this is a sample. Again, I can either enter the individual numbers or give the cell range. Here is my standard deviation. Friends, please note that both average and stdev.s functions, they are applied on data set consisting of the actual data. They are not used on frequency distributions. For if you have a frequency distribution, you will have to just calculate your average the normal way as we do in statistics. So coming to mode.sngl, this will give me the modal value, the most popular value. So equal to mode.sngl, and I select my data again, the numbers, modal value 24. Here I have a number of 24s which have come. So this is my mode function, mode.sngl function. Now let us take up the next function, and the next function that I am taking is frequency. This frequency function, it helps me in calculating the frequency of the various categories of my frequency distribution. For example, I want to create a frequency distribution of the above data set with the class intervals as 1 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80 and 81 to 100. So I want to put their frequency and this function frequency helps me in doing that. However, before we start using the frequency function, there are a couple of things that you should know. Number one, frequency function is an array function. Now, what is an array function? In case of an array function, what we do is an array function returns the values of the entire array together. That means the value of one category, the frequency of one category is depending on what is the previous category. Of course, if you have a category of 1 to 20 and 21 to 40, you will have different frequencies compared to if your intervals are of the size 10, say 1 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. So what value comes over here depends on how many values are already sorted in the previous interval. So in an array function, please remember that the entire array has to be taken together for using the function. Secondly, for a frequency function or an array function, the result is obtained by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus Enter keys together. Normally, whenever we are using any function or formula, we have to just press enter to get the result. But in case of frequency function, this is an array function, so we will have to press Ctrl plus Shift plus Enter keys together. And lastly, array functions are not copied. So when I am using my frequency distribution, I will not calculate frequency for first cell and then copy it down the column. No, this is an array function. The entire range of cells where I want my frequencies to be appearing will be taken together and filled together using the frequency function. Let's see how this is done. So step number 1 is select all the cells where you want your frequencies to appear. I'm going to select cells from D16 to D20. You can see these cells have been selected, and now without clicking anywhere else, I will start typing my frequency function. So equal to frequency. Frequency function takes two arguments, data array and bins array. Data array refers to the cell range where your data is located, whereas bins array refers to the largest value that is accepted in any particular interval. So what is my data array? Data array is this data set that I have. So I will just give reference to this data set A2 to E11. I'll put a comma, and now it is asking me what is the bins array. Like I told you, bin is the largest value in any interval, the array of cells containing the largest values for the various intervals. Now, what is the largest value that I will have in first interval? 20. What is the largest data value that can come in the second interval? 40. For the third, 60, fourth, 80, and the last 100. So what I will do is I will select this entire array containing the values of upper limits 20 to 100 and use this as a bins array. Please remember that in case your distribution is open-ended, you may also leave choosing the last value. So you can just choose the cell range from C16 to C19, then also the function will work. But you can also use C16 to C20. So either ways you will get the same answer. Only thing to remember is that the bins array has to be taken, and last interval value is filled as the balance of whatever data does not get sorted in any other category. So I close the brackets, and what do I do? Now I want to get my result. Press Ctrl plus Shift plus Enter keys together. So Ctrl plus Shift plus Enter, and you will see that the entire frequency distribution has been filled together. I have not copied the formulas, friend. If I copy this formula, then it will not give me the correct result. I have just pressed Ctrl Shift and Enter, and my entire selected range gets filled with the frequencies of that particular category. You will also see that I had already used a sum function, applied a sum function here, and it is showing me 50. That means the entire data has been sorted, 50 numbers have been sorted into their respective categories. So this is how we can use a frequency distribution function, frequency function. Now we come to the last three functions under the statistical category which we will discuss. These functions are correlation, intercept, and correl, intercept, and slope. Let's start with the correl function. Like I told you, correl function, it helps you in calculating the Karl Pearson's correlation coefficient. So I will just write equal to correl. The syntax of this function is array 1 and array 2. Now I have two set of variables over here. I have advertising expenses of various companies, and I have sales of the companies vis-a-vis the advertising expenses, and I want to see the correlation between the advertising expenditure and the sales. So I can take, since in correlation there is no concept of dependent and independent variable, I can take any of the arrays first and the other array as the array 2. The only condition is that the number of items in the first array should be the same as the number of items in the second array. So correl, array 1, array 2, press enter, I get the correlation coefficient for my data set. Next, I want to calculate the regression, intercept, and slope. So to do that, I will again enter intercept function. Intercept function takes two arguments, known y's, known x. Known y's refer to the known values, given values of the dependent variable. In my case, my dependent variable is sales. I want to see how the sales depend on the advertising. So dependent variable, comma, known x's. Known x's refer to the known values of the independent variable. So this is our predictor variable or independent variable, advertising expense, and I press enter. This gives me the value of the intercept. For the slope, the syntax is the same. So known y is known value of the dependent variable, comma, known x, known value of the independent variable. This gives me my regression coefficients, and then I can know what my regression line is in case of two variables. So this is how we use the statistical functions, and thank you very much. We will continue with other functions in the next session.